Hello, what's going on everybody? My name is Dominic from Dominic Talks Movies, and today I'm going to be doing a What I Watched in August. Now, there's quite a few films to get into, so without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. Starting off first with The Godfather. Now, this was the first time I watched this film, and it met my expectations, I will say that. Because it was one of the most hyped movies of all time, said to be the greatest by many people, I had a very high expectations going into this one, and honestly it didn't disappoint. It is definitely not my favorite movie of all time, but it is a fantastic film. I don't think I was bored once during this 3-hour runtime. All the characters were super interesting, and I can't wait for The Godfather Part 2. Then I watched The Mummy in preparation for my Universal Monsters ranking. This was a good enough film, but nothing too crazy. Definitely one of the weaker monster films, and not too much to say. Next up I watched The Phantom of the Opera, another one in preparation for my Universal Monster rankings, and this was definitely one of my more preferred films in the franchise. Then I rewatched Fantastic Mr. Fox for like the billionth time or something. I still love it, still my favorite film of all time. Then I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey for the first time. It was absolutely incredible. I was blown away by this film. It was so amazing. Honestly, I'm just blown away by Kubrick every film I watch by him now, because even his ones that are weaker are still great films. But regardless, this is one of the most beautiful yet confusing films I've ever seen, and I definitely plan on rewatching it in the future sometime soon. Then I watched Dante's Inferno, and I think this is technically the first feature-length film that is still that you're able to watch today. It was released in 1911. And I actually liked this one a good bit. It was a silent horror film about Dante's Divine Comedy. If you're aware of this, it's basically just Dante and Virgil, and they kind of just take a march through hell. And it's very interesting to see the effects and all that from back in 1911. The effects honestly are very, very good for back then, and the black and white and silent film gives it an extremely eerie aura and a very creepy watch, but definitely not for everyone. Then I rewatched Psycho, and it is still my favorite horror movie of all time. Alfred Hitchcock is just fantastic. Anthony Perkins, beautiful performance, and everything is just still amazing. Then I watched Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, one of the longest movie titles I've ever seen, and it was great. Stanley Kubrick, this is the first film that I think I was pleasantly surprised, because 2001: A Space Odyssey I knew was fantastic. I had high expectations for it, but this one I didn't really have high expectations, and I loved it. It's a great little comedy. Then I rewatched Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring, because I wanted to. But anyway, the Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. It probably is my favorite. And Fellowship of the Ring has some great adventure and just a fantastic movie. Then I watched Kubrick's Fear and Desire. This is definitely his worst film, at least as of now. And yeah, I think this is said to be his worst film, and Kubrick actually himself notoriously hated this film. He tried to destroy every copy of it, and I don't think it's that bad. It's definitely watchable. It's definitely interesting, has some interesting filmmaking going on here. There's definitely some experimentalism, but it didn't really feel like it did anything. But overall, it's still a decently watchable film, not something that I would want to destroy every copy of. But anyway. Then I watched Alfred Hitchcock's Rope for the first time, and I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't expecting too much from this film, and it was honestly great. Not too much to say. Very suspenseful, good concept, executed very, very well. And I think you all should check this one out because it's a very influential film, and if you're interested in filmmaking, this is definitely one to check out. Then I rewatched Ghostbusters and I still love it. Then I watched Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket for the first time and it was traumatizing. Then I rewatched The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, and this one is definitely the weakest of the three, but still a very, very high score. Then the very next day I watched The Return of the King in theaters, and wow, this was amazing. This is quite possibly my favorite theater experience of all time. It's just one of my favorite films, and getting to experience it in theaters after it was released in theaters is just such a great experience. I absolutely loved it, and it's still my favorite of the trilogy. Then I watched Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, and it was pretty creepy, honestly. It was a good film, definitely Kubrick's messiest, but I just found a quality in it that I just loved about it, and it just grasped onto me, and I could not stop watching this movie. And that, I think, in itself made me really appreciate this film, and now it's definitely higher on my Kubrick ranking than a lot of other people would have it. Then I watched Christopher Nolan's Interstellar in preparation for my Nolan ranking, and it was great. Then I headed back to the theaters to watch Tenet by Christopher Nolan, and as you guys probably saw in my Tenet review, it is now my favorite Christopher Nolan film of all time, at least for the time being. Definitely gonna have to give this one a rewatch or a few rewatches to be sure, but as of right now, it is my favorite. Then I watched Seven, directed by David Fincher, and it was crazy, man. Then I rewatched Alfred Hitchcock's short film Lamb to the Slaughter. This is my favorite short film of all time, but considering I haven't seen many, it's not that hard to do. But this is a fantastic little short. I love this one. I would rewatch it literally any day because it's only 30 minutes long. Great premise, executed beautifully. Definitely check this one out if you can find it. Then I watched North by Northwest for the first time, and I was a little disappointed, but it is still a very, very fun film. Then I watched Barry Lyndon, and it was amazing. Then to close up the month of August, I watched Lolita for the first time, and honestly, I loved it. I loved this film. It was a very, very good movie. The subject matter is very controversial, to say the least, but I am in no shame. I loved it. It was a great movie. As weird as it is, Stanley Kubrick makes you root for the main character Humbert, even though he is obsessed with a teenager, which is very, very taboo. But regardless, it's just a movie. It's not actually real. Kubrick is a great director, proven that he can make you root for such a person, and overall I just love this film. And yeah, so that is what I watched in August. Let me know down in the comments if you liked any of these films and what you thought of them. Also, I'd love to hear some of the films that you saw in August. And yeah, so if you could tell, there's a lot of Kubrick films because I am working on a Kubrick ranked, so definitely stay subscribed and turn notifications on so you can be notified whenever I post that video and you can be the first person to watch it. And yeah, that's gonna be it for me, guys. I'll see you in the next one.